Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world. Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host. And for this episode, I wanted to talk about something that has been showing up with a lot of the people that I work with. And that is how at different moments and stages in our lives, we resonate with different things or we learn something from things that had already happened in the past. As an example, I was talking with one of the people that I work with, and I was sharing about a topic that we had already worked on that over a year before that moment. And I told him, forget about what I said back then. Now you're at a different stage of understanding and consciousness. Now we can actually see this new perspective, this new idea. And I liken this to have you ever read a book for a second time or a third time and read something that you hadn't noticed that was there before? Something new, something that now makes sense. But in the past, we didn't have that awareness. We didn't have that same understanding. So what we read, either it didn't click or it didn't matter at that moment, but now it does. That is the key to understanding a lot of times where we are and what from the things that we are seeing that others share, whether that makes sense for us or not, whether that is our truth at the moment or not. I see a lot of times, and I do this as well, when I'm sharing something, talking here, or someone shares something on social media, or I do, that's not for everyone. It's for the people that are in that same stage of understanding. So it's not about excluding people, but it's about understanding that in certain mediums, when we share something, we are talking to specific people. And a lot of times that might not make sense. So a lot of times I say with a lot of people that I work with, I say something about, okay, what happened, now let's move forward, without even taking another second into it. And that's because with those people, there's already an understanding of how to process experience. It's not the same for people that haven't done that. So a message might not be relevant for a person that actually might be detrimental to a person if they are not at that same stage of understanding. It's not better or worse, it's just different places of where we are and what we know. Just like when I grew up in Argentina, I accepted the things that were culturally accustomed there, whether that was what I was eating, what I was doing, the way that I was purchasing things. And later on, with a different understanding, I can choose differently. But at that moment, I didn't have that understanding, so I don't judge it. And if someone would have told me at that moment, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, I wouldn't have understood really what they meant, because that wouldn't have actually clicked with me. So it's really important to be able to understand this when we see that others say something that doesn't ring true to us. It's not that what they are saying is definitely wrong. It might be that it's not right for us at that moment. So it's interesting with this and a lot of what would be called self-help books, that there's a lot of messages in some books that we can only discover when we read them sometime after doing some kind of transformation and change in our lives. When I remember I read for the first time the Kumye Tibetan yoga book, and I understood certain amount of things. Now I have read that book, I think that 20 times. Each time there's something new. And that blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, I've read that book. I'm meditating on that book. And I keep on finding new layers. And that a lot of times I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I missed that. And then I'm like, well, of course I missed that. I didn't have that understanding at that time. So with this comes a lot of compassion, of course, for ourselves, for not knowing what we didn't know in the past, for not realizing certain things, but also for others and for the things that they are sharing. And understanding as well that what has been true, even as we have done a lot of work and transformation ourselves, perhaps that stops being true. What we practice at one point, perhaps we need to stop practicing that because that's no longer relevant for our lives and the stage that we're in. So it's interesting. And I remember this, this is one of the things that I was sharing with one of the people that I work with, that I remember when I was living at the retreat center, and after long time of doing certain practices related to karma, my teacher then said, okay, now forget about all of that. Karma doesn't exist anymore. And that was, I'm like, wait, we've been working for years now on this. What do you mean it doesn't exist anymore? He said, well, you need to understand this and practice with this. Now you need to change your perspective and see it from a very different lens. And I don't want to get too much into exactly what we were working on, because it's hard to explain. But he said that from the Buddhist perspective, there's the relative truth and the ultimate truth, and that until we're open enough to see certain things, that those truths are no truth at all. They are something that we're not going to believe, that we're not going to experience, because we are at a very different stage. Again, not better or worse, it's just different. So with this, I wish to encourage all of you to just check in your own experience about this and to realize that there's different moments and different things and different ways of hearing or reading different messages or things that now they spark something in us that resonate with us. And sometimes it's even the same message by another person using different words or with different energy. And it's not that there is something wrong with the other ones, it's that we all resonate with different things. And we all resonate with something different at different stages and time in our life. So it's important to understand this. And my invitation is, if you have some book, especially, that really supported some change in your life, like one of these ones or many others that I have used and done and reread them. If you have some book that has done that for you, I invite you, if you feel like it, because a lot of people don't like to watch same movies or read the same books because they think that they already know everything and that's a waste of time. I invite you to not see that as a waste of time and to reread it and see if something new shows up. If something new comes into your awareness and understanding now that you have a different level of awareness, and see what shows up there. I was talking with one of the people that I work with, and they were mentioning The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that's one of those books that I have read several times as well. There's a lot of different texts for me that has happened. So I invite you to do that. And for everybody, I always like to know with stuff like that, if you have done this, if this has happened to you, if you're willing to try it, and if you're doing that, let us know how it's going. Leave us a message or a comment, whatever it is that you're finding this episode, and just share with us. This is always a nice way of interacting with people and just knowing more. So thank you for being there. Thank you for listening. And I invite you to see things from this lens from now on and see what happens. Have a beautiful time. Until next time. Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.